Hey, well, it's yet another episode of the Crypto Radar podcast with Saul, Paul, and
Darren.
No nickname,
I
Darren.
kind of like Nevada, Darren. You know, at least there's a little alliteration there. I mean, I like Nevada.
Yeah, Nevada, right. Darren, I thought worked. I mean, you know, but I'll go with what you want, man. You seem to want to change this up every week.
Canada, Darren.
Canada, Darren works. I think you should have a floating nickname.
Right.
You just pick it for the week, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Canada, Darren. I've got my Blue Jays cap on. Canada, Darren.
Rocking.
Yeah. And Soul Paul.
So, Canada, Darren. What's on your radar for the week?
Well, you know, you got me thinking. You know that Russian proverb? Can you say it again? Do you know it offhand in Russian? You know the shark one? The shark does not swim, drowns?
Sure. Of course I can.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. Does it have to be actual Russian or looking at blazing shark going No.
I don't know. I think you just asked me for chocolate ice cream. I'm not sure. But
it was vanilla actually. I got that maybe I got that wrong.
Okay, yeah, my Russian's kind of rusty.
Yes, tell me that. I have the same problem.
So, no, the saying was, this was from Journeys in Blockchain I did a couple weeks ago on Cointelegraph magazine, was that a shark does not swim, drowns. And we were contemplating why a Russian would come up with this proverb, being that we weren't really sure if a whole lot of Russians really had much exposure to sharks. And so that made me curious. And so then I looked up Russia sharks, and I found an article from 2011. So it's been a while that it was on, when you type in Russia sharks, this came up from the Daily Beast, and the title is Russia Plagued by Sharks.
Oh, it's a thing about law firms?
No, legit sharks. Russia's Pacific coast. Yes. Russia's Pacific coast is having an unprecedented spate of shark attacks. This is 2017, actually, this one. I said 2011. There was an incident in 2011 where a couple of Russian swimmers in the Pacific Ocean were attacked and hurt by sharks. Some kind of great white shark. Apparently, they're not common in the Sea of Japan. If you just go a little further out, Pacific Ocean, you got sharks there. So maybe these were Pacific Coast Russians that came up with this expression.
I wonder if Sarah Palin was watching all this go on from her house, right?
She probably could have. She could have been like, oh, no, look out. There's a shark there.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. The sharks.
I don't know how her Russian is.
No, I'm figuring it isn't that good. I'm figuring it's about as good as her English, to be honest. That's...
Yeah, she misremembered the Russian proverb.
Wow, that's crazy. So they do have sharks. Well, obviously
they're
plagued. Yeah. So I wonder why they're worried about how well they're swimming and less worried about the fact that they're eating people. Given the but I don't want to. I mean, now we can. This is a rabbit hole we could go down. We can spend hours inside that rabbit hole. And
a shark that does not eat Russians dies.
Yeah.
Drowns.
Yeah. Well, if you're living off the coast of Russia, and there's no seals or anything, or what you need to be eating Russians probably if you're a carnivore.
Yeah.
I guess.
Or Alaskans.
Yeah.
They're appealing.
I'm rapt that you did that research, Darren, during the week. It's kind of inspiring that you were that committed to working out what on earth was the genesis of that proverb, that you Googled it and discovered there was a spate of shark attacks on one of Russia's numerous coasts.
Well, like you, I was concerned that perhaps Russians were disingenuous in their coinage of a proverb that had no relevance to them.
Yeah, that did concern me. So, but you've now explained it. Now I get it. I mean, they experience sharks
I'm now at ease to use that proverb.
Yeah.
I no longer feel inauthentic.
I got to tell you, let me tell you what's on my particular radar for the week. And you may have read, I wrote about this in Epic Fail versus Nailed It. The Financial Stability Board, which I don't know that anybody's ever been a particular fan of, but the G20 rests on them for advice. And their remit is to promote international financial stability. And about mid last year, the G20 approached them and asked them to explore the potential risks and complications that could arise from the growth, the emergence of stablecoins and the more widespread use of stablecoins in the global financial system. And the FSB last week released their report. They made 10 recommendations, which by my count is about one a month, which were it a blockchain network, one transaction a month would be as slow as it'd want to be. But what their primary finding, although their finding that at least made most of the headlines, including mine, was that, and I quote, during periods of stress, households in some countries might come to regard stablecoins as a safe store of value over existing fiat currencies and exacerbate destabilizing capital flows, which can have a destabilizing effect on exchange rates and on domestic bank funding and intermediation. So what the stablecoin is saying to the G20 is that stablecoins could cause instability. Now, last I checked, stablecoins, the word stablecoin is made up of, it's a you know how spiders have compound eyes by which they have many eyes inside an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Stablecoin is a compound word by which it has, yeah, right. You're getting it. I can see you're following it. So there's the word stable and there's the word coin. By coin, it means coin, as in something that you would spend, like money. And by stable, it means it has the property of stability. Nevertheless, the Financial Stability Board says that stable coins could cause instability, which I found to be the height of irony. But when I look more closely into what the FSB actually does, to them, stability is order and control, central bank control, government control over what's going on. It's got nothing to do actually with stability. I also thought, was anyone looking out the window and noticing that there was a pandemic going on and unemployment rates were shooting to 30% and people were, the whole world's collapsing and they're concerning themselves with stable coins? So the whole thing reeked to me of, yet again, overreach on behalf of regulators trying to poke their noses into things that in the end they can't actually control anyway. They will be inevitable or not. And in an ironic way, such that that they would label a stablecoin potentially destabilizing.
So it's a conflation for them. They're conflating stability with control, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a really good.
Is that a little bit of gaslighting going on there? They're just trying to change the wording in people's minds, get people to think, oh, I never thought of it, as stability or as control, Is that the case, you think? Trying to manipulate people's thoughts on it?
That from a government-funded organization put in place to tell us what to do? I can't believe they do something like that. I think you're absolutely right. It's there's a funny side of this that the Financial Stability Board has a problem with things that are inherently stable. But yeah, there's that also fairly ugly part of it that we don't want people fleeing failing domestic fiat currencies that may be completely you would hate to think of all those Venezuelans fleeing the sovereign bolivar, which is inflating at about 10 million% a year. And I understand that's an outlier. It's not like we can equate that with with every country or with most countries. Although, given what's going on at the moment with the excessive printing of money, you never know what's going to happen over the next few years, right?
Right. Well, and for those people, yeah, albeit it's an outlier, but for those people, that would be an extremely useful tool.
Absolutely. And I think there has been. I mean, there is evidence that Venezuelans are fleeing to Bitcoin and Dash. So, and Venezuela, it's not like Venezuela is the only country that's ever experienced hyperinflation or that is currently experiencing hyperinflation. There's a number of them around the world, and they probably have a commonality that they're lesser developed economies, etc. But it's nobody's immune to it, and especially in this world with stimulus packages and central banks printing money left and right, it wouldn't be difficult for me to expect to see some rampant inflation coming to all our doorsteps in the next couple of years.
Well, it's like that old saying, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't actually know the old saying very well, but it's
Russian sharks that don't eat Russians. Not that one?
No, it's a different one.
That
all fiat currencies will eventually arrive at their intrinsic value, which is zero.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time.
They're a little bit like Tron tokens, right? In that regard.
Verge is my
Verge is
ongoing target for that joke. You prefer to make fun of Tron for that?
I do.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't quite have the vendetta against Verge that you do. Did you see how I did that?
That was good. Yeah. I have no such vendetta. It just was a funny story. Hey, just to let everybody know, at the end of this episode, we're trying a new segment. Yeah?
We are indeed.
So stick around for that.
The DNFA.
Do you want to talk about it? Or?
Yeah, the DNFA.
Yeah.
Definitely
not financial advice.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Definitely not financial advice. So by which we will be at the end of each episode be making a prediction for the forthcoming week, which is definitely not to be taken as financial advice. Something to do with the crypto markets. And we'll keep a scorecard, right? We'll see how we go.
Gentleman's bet.
Yeah.
Just
I'll
bragging
bet you, let's put 50 trillion Tron on it or something.
Oh, man. Can I get that on loan from a DeFi of some sort that's just went bankrupt? Can I do that?
Yeah, I'll put it on dForce for you.
Yeah.
in a dumb contract.
You put up the collateral.
So what's on your radar today, Darren?
I was looking into this little interesting story about the COVID-19 stimulus checks that were issued to the American citizenry of a given income. I think the cutoff somewhere around 150,000, 200,000 annual income for a family was kind of a cutoff, or like it diminishes, right? But under that amount, you as an adult taxpayer would be qualified. I believe it was $1,200 per person. Yeah. And if you had children, I think it was $500 a child.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. So a family of four could get a little help, say get $3,400, right? An individual would get a $1,200 stimulus check. And a couple of little stories I saw with this. One of them was with my pal, Steve Mnuchin.
Oh, your friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our favorite man in the White House. Our second favorite man in the White House.
Right. And he was talking about how this $1,200 stimulus check would get the American people who are struggling through the next 10 weeks.
Just $120 a week for an adult.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So assuming you're not paying any rent, I guess, you could take that stimulus check to buy a paltry amount of food And if you had no other expenses, utilities, rent, etc., you'd be okay. Apparently, this is how out of touch with reality Stephen Mnuchin is, that he thinks that $1,200 over 10 weeks is going to get you through. And a lot of people kind of made fun of it with, I don't know if you ever saw the Arrested Development meme with, I forget the mother's name, but she talks about going to the store and buying some bananas. She's like, how much could a banana cost? $10, right? And so then people were making fun of that and saying things like, how much could this cost, this paper money or whatever. But anyway, he got roasted for it. I don't know if you ever even looked at it, but just definitely out of touch with the reality of it. But also with this was an interesting story that Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, posted a chart, and it showed the percentage of buys and deposits that are exactly the same size as this $1,200 stimulus check. And if you observe the chart over the course of time, of course, there isn't a correlation to that. Like less than 0.1% of people were making $1,200 buys or deposits. But on the day that these stimulus checks got sent out and on the day that people received these stimulus checks, there's a huge spike. Huge is a bit of a subjective word, but it goes from less than 0.1%, let's say 0.05%, to almost 0.4% of all of their buys and deposits on the exchange matched exactly a value of $1,200.
Sorry, say that again. 0.05 to 0.4.
Correct.
That's quite a
10 times increase.
Yeah.
Say 9 times. Okay. And it's interesting because, there are people who really, really, really do depend on those stimulus checks to survive, right? And it's probably not even enough. But there are going to be people too who are still employed. Maybe they're working remotely. They're still having a stable income. And hey, they get this $1,200 stimulus check.
So everyone gets them. I thought you had to be unemployed or otherwise in need to get are they literally sending it to everybody?
You know what? You're pointing out my ignorance on this one here. I'm not 100% sure. I was under the impression that if you were under a certain income threshold, you just got it. It was like a basic income type thing.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I don't believe it was something where you had to go through a whole application process or anything like that. I thought it was an automatic issuance.
No, you're right.
Feel free to correct me in the comments below and subscribe and like.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. No, I actually don't know. I know that there wasn't any process whereby they asked people nobody had to apply for it. It was just handed out based on your most recent IRS filings.
Right.
So perhaps everybody did get them. Yeah.
There's no way they'd know if you were in an unemployed situation.
Correct.
Canada took a different approach to it. They've issued, it's called the Emergency Response Benefit. And in Canada, basically all you have to do is apply. If you've lost your job because of COVID, you apply. And there's no questions asked. If you apply, they send you the money. And what they're doing is a year from now, when it's time to do your taxes, that's when they'll be like, why did you take this money? You didn't need it. And you'll have to pay it back if you were cheating the system.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a highly efficient way of and I don't want to, I know that people are going to hate this, but AOC was saying, because she was questioned about why the hell are you giving $1,200 to everybody? Do you think Bill Gates really needs $1,200? And her argument, no, he'd be above the threshold probably.
Yeah.
But
I would think so.
Her argument was the fastest way to get money to people who need it is to send it to everybody, and we'll tax it back next year from those who didn't need it. That makes sense. That's efficient. That's an efficient way of doing it.
Well, not so efficient though. There were a bunch of banks that got hammered from people trying to cash their checks. There were banks that basically were overwhelmed. But nonetheless, my point being, people are taking these stimulus checks who are in a position that they don't really need the money, right? And they're going, hey, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin, right? Now, it was 0.05% prior to this event. and 0.4% on pretty much the first day that people were getting these checks into
That's
their banks.
interesting. I know that there was speculation that that might happen, and I was doubtful, to be honest, because I thought that no. This is this is money that people are going to need. Nobody's going to be speculating. This is not the time for people who are not in crypto to be speculating on opening Coinbase accounts, and that's not what these stimulus checks are going to be used for. But I guess there is that small percentage of people who are. They just don't need the money, and they're playing with crypto.
Well, there are jobs that are still safe right now, right?
Yeah.
If you're working in healthcare, you're probably safe in your job. Well, safe financially, maybe not safe health-wise. If you're in a number of public sector jobs that haven't been cut, they're relatively safe, right?
Yeah.
If you're working in a grocery store, you're probably safe, right? There are jobs that currently are fairly safe.
Still running.
Amazon's hiring tons of people to work in their warehouses.
Yeah,
So
I'd love to work in an Amazon warehouse.
Yeah. Well, that's another issue. All I'm saying is in terms of not worrying about losing your job, there are people out there who maybe don't have a huge income, but they haven't lost their job and they're probably not going to lose their job. They get a $1,200 check in the mail and they go, hey, why don't I try buying some Bitcoin with this?
Well, that's at org as well. I mean, if people think a valuable thing to do, a worthwhile, okay, you get money you don't need. I'll dabble into cryptocurrency. I think it's good for crypto. It's a whole new raft of people who are exploring the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and with that, there's always kind of this narrative that kind of comes out where people will say, oh, so you're exiting fiat and going into Bitcoin, right? And it's kind of this theory of hyper Bitcoinization. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But what people forget is that money doesn't disappear. The money then goes on to whoever sold the Bitcoin, and then they have that money, and it continues to flow throughout the economy. It doesn't evaporate. Some people have this idea that, buying into Bitcoin is going to somehow cause this dollar to disappear, but it doesn't. It just flows on through the economy to other people.
It's a very kind of binary view of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. That wouldn't be something I'd buy into.
No.
Once, yeah. I'm abandoning the fiat system yeah.
But you do hear that from some crypto enthusiasts, that notion. I mean, I could say, for example, by me buying Bitcoin, in a way, I'm making a statement against the centralized economy system. By buying Bitcoin, I'm going into something that's a free market asset. And so you could say it's almost like a protest, an act of protest. However, problematic. Money that I used to buy it has still gone on to someone else, and they're still spending that money somewhere. So the money still exists in the system.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a. It's like to say you could make the same argument about sticking your money in a bank, for example, or under your mattress.
Maybe under your mattress would be better, more accurate than putting it in the bank. But problem being that money is going to diminish in value because we're in an inflationary situation and it's fractionally reserved and it's quantitative easing, right? So holding onto your cash under a mattress, you're not.
It's not a smart thing to do, for sure. Yeah.
So, what else is on your radar?
The Libra situation that occurred during the week. As you know, they updated their white paper. The update their white paper now has a cover letter, which essentially says we are chickening out. We will not be. They're still going to have it. There still will be a Libra currency, but essentially, what for most users is going to be the case is that they are offering digital versions backed by fiat of various fiat currencies. So the Singapore dollars was the euro, the US dollar, the obvious ones. It's another Google Pay style. It's Google Pay. It's PayPal. That's all it is.
It's PayPal on Facebook.
Yeah.
Integrated with Facebook.
Yeah.
Which people will use.
Yeah, it's perfectly. I mean, it's going to make things very convenient, but there won't be much money to be made by anybody in it, and it doesn't really change. It kind of just changes nothing, really.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm
Right?
sure Facebook will make some money off of, I don't know, whatever fee structure they have. No?
If I'm buying €1 worth of crap from someone on Amazon using Facebook, what am I going to pay a fee to
I don't know.
use
What is the
Facebook?
fee structure for Libra? Is there any kind of, I mean, there surely is some kind of money to be made there for them.
Yeah, it's actually something that I always wondered about. Why are these people joining the Calibra Association, the Libra Association, with there doesn't seem to me to be any money to be made unless they start introducing Visa-esque fees over time. But
Perhaps it's more that they, kind of like Google makes money from the information, from the data we provide. Perhaps that's more the angle that because they can track all of your financial transactions, and that data could be valuable to merchants.
Facebook does not sell our data. Come on, man. How could you possibly accuse them of that? That's terrible. Facebook, I mean, we are everything we do on Facebook is our own, belongs to ourselves. It's completely private and owned by. I don't. There's never been a data violation that's occurred on Facebook, to my knowledge.
Now you
So
have to sip some water like a lizard.
Can you see my nose? I've, yeah, yeah. No, perhaps it is a data game thing.
That would make sense to me.
But did Google Pay ever really take off? Do you know anyone who's ever used it?
No, Google Pay not so much. Apple
Yeah,
Pay not even really.
right. I've never used them either. There's never been cause for me to use them.
I know in China, WeChat is huge.
Weixin. Yeah,
Huge,
yeah. That's
right?
yeah. So what happened? Why is that? Because it's ubiquitous, I guess. But so's Google,
Well,
right?
it has to. It's the old dilemma. It can't be ubiquitous unless it is ubiquitous, right? Like it's one of those kind of tricky
Or
scenarios where
is there a
you
Russian
know.
proverb for that?
I know that. What I mean to say is it's difficult to reach a critical mass, but you need that critical mass in order for people to use it. So how does one execute that? Clearly, somebody at WeChat knew how to do it. Maybe somebody at Facebook knows how to do it, but it hasn't happened for Google Pay, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay. None of those have really taken
No,
off.
no. So
So maybe
yeah,
Facebook will have success with it, but I don't see. It's basically been nerfed, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's been declawed.
It's regulator friendly PayPal. It's
Yes.
another. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So PayPal is expensive. PayPal is an
It is
incredibly expensive way to get money around the world because
very much
they
so.
stitch everyone up, right?
Yes.
Especially when you're crossing currencies. My goodness.
Yeah.
So Facebook won't even make that money. If you're sending US dollars from A to B, it's I don't really
I think
it's
they
not
had a vision of
mm,
something that was going to be akin to something like Bitcoin, except permissioned, which for me makes it not at all like Bitcoin. But in their minds, they were like, hey, let's get in on this. Let's set this up and we can control money worldwide and have a piece of every single little transaction going on everywhere, have all the data on people's transactions. I mean, Facebook itself is, like I said before, it is ubiquitous. So they've already got that, right? So if you offer this currency via Facebook, you've got a built-in massive audience of people that are going to use it.
I get you, man, but Google is ubiquitous as well, and I literally know nobody who's ever used Google Pay to do anything. So
No, I
yeah,
can't think of
right.
anyone either. Yeah, it's true. So next topic here, I did actually do Journeys in Blockchain. I was
You
a
do,
little bit starstruck because
why is that?
I,
You interviewed someone important.
Well, someone famous. I spoke with Akon. For those who don't know,
Akon.
he,
Right on.
he's a 5-time Grammy nominee. He's sold like 35 million albums. He's worked with Michael Jackson. He worked with Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Lady Gaga, like big names. So it was interesting. I mean, talking with him, he really is focused on his mission, right? Go ahead.
Set it up for us, Darren. Why were you talking with you for a blockchain publication? Why were you talking with Akon?
Well, the big thing with Akon, of course, being that he is behind a digital currency that's on the Stellar blockchain called Akoin. And he's also behind a huge, very ambitious project in Senegal, he's Senegalese American, where he wants to start a city, Akon City. And basically the notion of this is I call it a case study or a test case. And what he wants to do is start a city that runs not primarily on fiat currency, but on this digital currency. Because a huge problem in Africa especially is the unreliability of these fiat currencies that are not transferable from one country to another. They don't have value outside of their countries. And a lot of people actually throughout Africa, I don't know if you knew this, they actually use mobile phone minutes as currency. So, those little cards you can get, those pay-as-you-go cards that you can buy at, like, say, 7-Eleven or whatever, right? And they say it has $25 worth of talk time or whatever. Those are used as currency because they have a stable value from country to country, right? And so you can be in, say, Nigeria, and you can trade it with a neighboring country and just trade the value of the card, and that basically acts as currency. So he wants to do something that gets away from the problems of these unreliable and unstable fiat currencies and establish a population that relies instead on a digital currency that's transparent, right? You can't hide where these transactions are going in the same way as you can with cash. So that kind of cuts down on issues with, say, things like corruption, right? And so he has some interesting goals, but I talked to him about what got him to that point in the interview. So we kind of look back in time, which is the whole point of Journeys, is to look at, okay, what got you to this point, right? And there's some interesting stories there. He's always been an entrepreneur. He's always been creative with how to make money. He even talks about how music was something that he leveraged to kind of get into other industries, So he got into ringtones, like, I don't know if you remember back in the day when you had the little flip phone and you'd have like kind of a digitized version of a ringtone, and it would be, a song, but it would be like beep, 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 instead of the actual song. Well, he was one of the first people who came up with master ringtones, which are actual samples of his music, right? And then selling those master ringtones for like $5 a piece, which he was saying, okay, you could sell a single for like $2, but you could sell a ringtone, which is like 10 seconds, for $5. And he actually holds the Guinness World Book of Records for most master ringtones sold.
Is that right? I didn't know there was such a record.
It's kind of a niche record.
It sure is. That's cool. That's cool.
He made a ton of money off it.
So he's always been an entrepreneur, and now he's come into the blockchain space because he was inspired to create this kind of testbed city in Senegal and see how it works.
Right. Well, when he first kind of discovered all this digitization with ringtones, that got him thinking more about the digitization of other things like money. And then as crypto kind of kept creeping up, he got more and more into that. So, it was neat to talk to him. He was very friendly. I can now say Akon has said to me, "Appreciate you, bro," is what he said. That was, that's cool. My brush with fame. He was an interesting talk. Very friendly guy, very positive, and I think he does, have some genuine aspirations there, some genuine ambition that he wants to see this work. And from there, he wants that to be kind of a test case, but then he'd also like to spread that out throughout the country.
Sure. No, so I mean, I'd be really interested in seeing how Akoin. Sorry, what's the name of the city is going to be?
Akoin is Akoin.
Yeah.
The first city that they're doing, they're calling Akon City. It's in Senegal.
City. Okay.
It's not far from, I forget the airport, but anyway, it's just a parcel of land that they own that they're doing this on, and everything there is going to, like, so the healthcare system, the education system, all of those kind of elements will be running through this currency. Of course, fiat currency will still exist, but the notion being that all of the interactions on an infrastructure level will run through that currency.
So they're going to build a new city, or does it kind of exist? Oh, they're going to create a city.
They're building it, literally.
That's so epic, man.
Yeah. Construction, I believe, begins, he said, in January. Right now, they're kind of getting all the parts in place.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, That's it'll be a crypto city.
No, I can't wait to see how it happens. I mean, if that works, if that takes off in any kind of meaningful way, we could, I mean, that could easily spread throughout the continent. And then, wider.
Especially when you have just the widespread problems with currency, particularly in Africa. Right. Like he talks about, he has the CFA, which is the French CFA. It's a currency in Senegal, which is made by the French government in France for the people of Senegal. Mm-hmm. He went on a trip, had his CFA with him in France, and had forgotten to exchange it in Senegal. So he gets to France, and he's like, yeah, I'd just like to exchange this for euros. And they're like, nope, it's worthless here. And he's like, what? This is ridiculous. So, yeah, that really incensed him, motivated him to look into it more.
Cool. Well, I wish him luck. I'll follow it with great interest.
Yeah, anyway, if you look at the column, it goes into more details about what got him to that place. Yeah.
Are they going to have is it going to be like one of those, are they going to make it like a city of the future with electric cars and self-driving? Is it going to be that far? Like a project?
It wouldn't surprise me if they did go the renewable route, because he's also behind a project called Lighting Africa. And that project is about getting people without access to electricity in Africa set up on a solar grid. Right. And he's behind that project as well. So he's done a lot of pretty admirable projects from what I can see, and kind of getting people of Africa to have more independence and more a sense of better standard of living, better quality of life.
It's great.
Mm-hmm. So I hope it works out well. It'll be interesting to follow up on that. I mean, it's going to take time.
Yeah. Good for him. I talked to his people last week about, I've got a single coming out, being a white rapper and stuff. So they were really cool to work with. And
you collaborated with Akon?
I collaborated with some people who collaborate with him, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I mean, this is great. So
degrees of separation there.
Yeah. There's a few, but we're within Kevin Bacon of each other,
Kevin Bacon. That's random.
DNFA. I got a DNFA segment.
Definitely not financial advice.
Definitely not financial advice. So rely on this at your absolute peril, and for God's sake, don't act on it. In fact,
this is where we should have some kind of little song, like those terrible songs on like David Letterman or whatever, where they're like, definitely not financial advice.
Get some kind of jingle. Actually, what we should call it is NAFA, NAFA, not actionable financial advice. Don't do what I'm about to say. I have a prediction.
Shoot.
So there's something like, there's over $1 billion in custody in the DeFi ecosystem now, in light of the dForce, the $25 million exploit that hit dForce recently. I predict that the DeFi market will shrink by about 50%. People will be sucking money out of that ecosystem like you wouldn't believe. And this time next week, there'll be half as much money in it as there is today.
That much
That's
of a
my
drop,
prediction.
you think? That's for
Absolutely.
a 1 week time span. You think it'll be a 50% fall?
50%. 50%. Yeah. That's my.
That is bold.
Oh man, I don't mess about with predictions, right?
Wow. So what's the
I
entire
go big.
DeFi market as of now
Yeah.
comprised?
So let's have a look. Let's have a look. So there's $750 million locked
Locked in
today.
as of now.
Yeah,
And
as of now.
what was there yesterday? But you said it's already fallen. How much has it already fallen? Because we
Well,
have to do it as of this point.
my God. So on March 12th, well, it's come from it was over $1 billion at March 8th. Oh, that was a while ago now, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay. So it's, it fell on the March 12th bloodbath day, and it's been rising since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been rising, and it's back up at so 750 mil.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying there'll be $375 million in DeFi this time next week. There'll be a race for the exits.
So what percent? You're saying
50%.
Wow. You know what? I'll bet against that on you. Gentlemen's bet here. I think, it blips for a day or two, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and levels off. And people are,
And no harm done?
I think it'll have a small drop. I don't think it's going to be 50%.
Okay. So I'll put
Odds are on my side on that bet, really. I mean, I've got way better odds than you.
You do, yeah. But I'm putting 50 trillion billion gazillion Tron tokens on this. What are you wagering? 485 gazillion Verges. So we're both on the hook for a couple of cents, I guess.
Yes, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Again, this is a gentleman's bet. I'm not actually betting you any real currency here.
No, it's Tron and Verge, so we're not betting real currencies.
Ouch. We've got the DeFi bet. And the one I came up with was Bitcoin, bullish or bearish. All right. And here's my thinking. It's actually a bit of a dilemma right now because with these stimulus checks rolling in, right, you're going to maybe have some retail buyers. Mm-hmm. But the reality is retail buyers are a tiny, tiny, tiny part of the market. And the bigger part of the market being miners, being OTC trading, where people are just trading stuff behind closed doors. You don't even know what's happening, but then eventually that stuff trickles onto the spot exchanges and so forth.
Yeah.
So my thinking, looking at hash rates, looking at just sentiment, I'm feeling kind of bearish about this week. I say this time next week, Bitcoin is definitely going to be lower than it is now. It's at $7,171.97 right now, looking on CoinMarketCap. So I'm thinking I see Bitcoin falling over this next week. In fact, I think you'll see it fall like within Monday's going to be, a bit of a drop, I suspect. And if you look at the recent lows, we were around the $6,500 mark. I feel it's going to be back around there by next time we talk.
Okay. Bitcoin back to 65. Because that's a significant enough of a drop.
I'd say so. What are your thoughts? So you got to take a side on this. You disagree?
I'm going to disagree. I'm bullish. There is $7.5 billion sitting on the sidelines. So they are refugees of the recent volatility that we've seen in mid-March, COVID-related volatility. So $7.6 billion sucked out of proper cryptocurrencies and sitting in stable coins, waiting for an entry point. I believe that enough of those people will assume as we get very close to the halving now, like we're inside of a month to the next halving, they will race into the Bitcoin market. And I reckon, so I'll predict it to be at 8,000 this time next week. How's that?
Excellent. So do we just base the winner on whoever ends up being closer? Well, I mean, obviously if it goes down, I win. If it goes up, you win.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's put our 48 trillion TRXs on the whether it goes up or down.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
All right.
To be fair, I am long-term bullish. I just see it dipping over the next week is all.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that was a spicy episode today of the Crypto Radar podcast, and it will no doubt get spicier. I don't know whether we're going to be talking about Russian eating sharks, and Sarah Palin shark watching food bloodbaths of the Pacific. I'm rambling here. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Crypto Radar podcast. Hope you smack that subscribe button like you've never smacked anything before. And I'll be talking to you this time next week, Scandinavia Darren.
Don't wreck your phone or anything doing that, but yeah.
No,
Yeah. Right on. Okay, talk to you next week, Paul.
right on.